Du Young Kim stood tall in his black diplomatic suit, even though everyone else in the room was at least 2 feet taller than him. The Galactic Council chamber was huge, with ceilings so high it disappeared into darkness. 50 alien representatives sat in raised seats that formed a circle around him. They looked down at him with what he could only describe as sweet smiles, the kind adults give to small children. High Counselor Eric's, a blue-skinned being with 4 arms, leaned forward in his seat. How delightful! It's even smaller than the report suggested, he said to the other council members, who made sounds that might have been chuckles. Do Young kept his face neutral, though his hands tightened slightly behind his back. He was Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, and he had trained for 5 years for this moment. He would not let their attitude bother him. Honorable Council, he said clearly into the translator device at his throat. I bring greetings from Earth and the human race. We are honored to be considered for membership in the galactic community. A ripple of what seemed like fond amusement passed through the chamber. A green, snake-like being called Mira slithered forward in her seat. Oh, listen to it using such big diplomatic words. Simply precious. Do Young felt his eye twitch but maintained his smile. He had expected this. The briefings had warned him that most advanced species saw humans as cute pets rather than equals. Earth had only achieved faster-than-light travel 10 years ago, while most council races had been spacefaring for thousands of years. We have reviewed your species application, Eric said, holding up a data pad with one of his 4 hands. While your technological level is charmingly primitive, we find your species quite appealing. Those round eyes, small size, and determined attitude are quite endearing. The council members nodded in agreement. Du Young could see them exchanging what they probably thought were subtle looks of fondness. Therefore, Eric's continued, we have decided to grant Earth protected species status. This means you will be safeguarded from any hostile races and given basic trading rights. Of course, you won't have voting powers or be involved in any complex decisions. Those matters are best left to more advanced civilizations. Do Young wanted to argue. He wanted to tell them about Earth's quantum computers, their breakthroughs in AI technology, their innovative solutions in sustainable energy. But he knew it wouldn't matter. Not yet. We thank the Council for their generous offer, he said instead, bowing slightly. Earth accepts protected species status. He saw several council members practically coo at his bow. As he walked out of the chamber, Du Young allowed himself a small smile. Let them think humans were cute and harmless. Let them underestimate Earth. They had no idea what humans could do when they were underestimated. In his pocket, his quantum tablet buzzed with a message from Hanbai Li, one of Earth's youngest diplomats. Meeting successful. Did they fall for it? Do Young's smile grew wider as he typed back. Completely. Phase 1 complete. They think we're adorable. Behind him, he could still hear the council members chattering about how delightful it was to have such a cute new species under their protection. They had no idea they had just started a chain of events that would change the galaxy forever. Hanbai Li stared at her screen until her eyes hurt. Numbers and trade routes filled the display, showing how different alien species moved goods across the galaxy. She had been studying these patterns for 3 months now, and something felt wrong. Ta-1, can you look at this? She called to her friend across the small office they shared in the Earth Embassy. Taiwan Park was Earth's best AI specialist, though the aliens didn't know that yet. Taiwan walked over, his coffee cup in hand. Found something interesting. Look at how they move goods between these 3 sectors. Hanbai pointed at her screen. They're taking the long way around every time. It's like they don't see the shorter routes. Taiwan put down his coffee and leaned closer. His eyes widened. Run it through the AI analyzer. Let's see what else we find. Hanbai connected her computer to Earth's hidden quantum AI system. The aliens thought Earth only had basic computers. They didn't know about the quantum AI network that humans had built in secret. Numbers flashed across the screen. The AI found more and more problems with the alien trade routes. They were wasting huge amounts of fuel and time. Some ships were traveling 3 times farther than they needed to. "This is bigger than we thought," Taiwan said quietly. "The whole galactic trade system is running at less than half its potential efficiency." Hanbai nodded. "We should tell Ambassador Kim." An hour later, they stood in Do Young's office, showing him their findings. The ambassador listened carefully, his face serious. "Good work," he said when they finished. "But we need to be careful how we present this. The council still thinks we're cute pets. They won't want to hear that their trade system has problems. But we can help them," Hanbai said. "Our eye has already found better routes that could save them billions in fuel costs." Do Young smiled. "Yes, but remember the plan. We need to show them slowly. Let's start small." The next day, Hanbai presented their findings to the council's trade committee. She made sure to act nervous and humble, just like they expected from a primitive human. The alien council members listened with amused smiles. One of them, a tall purple alien, patted her head when she finished. "How adorable," the alien said. "The little human thinks she understands galactic trade. Thank you for your interesting ideas, dear. Now run along and let the grown-ups handle these complex matters." Hanbi bowed and left, hiding her smile. Behind her, she heard them laughing about how cute it was that humans were trying to understand galactic economics. Back at the embassy, she found a message from Du Young. "Perfect performance. They didn't suspect a thing. Keep monitoring the trade routes. Phase 2 is now in motion." Hanbai looked at her screen, where the AI was still finding more problems in the alien trade system. "They think we're just playing with toys," she said to Taiwan. "They have no idea what's coming." Taiwan grinned. Sometimes being underestimated is the biggest advantage of all. The emergency alarms woke everyone in the Earth Embassy at midnight. Red lights flashed through the corridors as Du Young Kim ran to the main communication room. On the big screen, he saw chaos. A group of warships had attacked the galaxy's biggest trade hub. The attackers were the Krell, a species known for their aggression. Their black ships moved in patterns that confused the Council's defense forces. "Get me Hanbai and Taiwan," Du Young ordered. "Now." They arrived quickly, still in their sleek clothes. Hanbei's eyes went wide when she saw the attack on the screen. "The trade hub," she whispered. "That's where all the inefficient routes connect." Taiwan was already at a computer, connecting to Earth's AI. The Krell are using the gaps in the trade routes. They knew exactly where to hit. The Council's emergency meeting started minutes later. On the big screen, alien representatives argued and shouted. Their usual calm was gone. Their defensive ships were failing to protect the trade hub. "Send in the Third Fleet," one council member yelled. "The Third Fleet will take too long to get there," another answered. "These trade routes are too long." Hanbai looked at her datapad, then at Du Young. "Sir, our AI found something. The Krell's attack pattern. It matches the trade route problems we discovered. They're using the system's weaknesses against the Council." Do Young nodded. "And that's not all, is it?" "No," Taiwan said. "Our AI predicts their next 3 moves. They're going to hit these points next." He pointed to several spots on the map. "The Council's ships can't reach those places in time, not using their current routes." Just then, a new voice spoke in the Council meeting. "Perhaps we should ask the humans what they think," said High Admiral Rix. "They seem to enjoy studying our trade routes. Let them have their fun in this crisis." The Council members laughed, despite the serious situation. They thought it was cute that humans wanted to help. "Very well," said High Counselor Erix. "Let's hear what the adorable humans think. It might give us some amusement during this crisis." Do Young gave a signal, and Jihai Kang, Earth's military strategist, stepped forward. She had been quietly watching everything from the back of the room. "Honorable Council," Jihai said softly, "I have a suggestion." She began to explain her plan, making it sound simple and almost childish. The council members smiled and nodded, clearly not taking her seriously. But Du Young saw Admiral Rix watching Ji-hai closely. The Admiral's eyes were sharp, seeing past the simple words to the brilliant strategy hidden within them. The first phase of the battle plan was about to begin, and the council still had no idea that their cute humans were about to save the entire galaxy. Ji-hai stood before the council's war room display, pointing at different parts of the map. She kept her voice soft, and her words simple, just as planned. "If we move the ships like this," she said, drawing lines with her finger, "we can trap the bad ships here, here, and here." She was explaining complex military strategy as if she was teaching a children's game. Most council members smiled and nodded, not really listening. But Admiral Rix's 4 eyes were fixed on the map, seeing the real genius behind Ji-hai's simple words. "What a creative little game," said one council member. "But this is real war, dear. We need serious solutions." Admiral Rix stayed quiet, watching as Ji-hai finished her presentation. Later, when the council meeting ended, she called her fleet commanders privately. "Follow these exact coordinates," Rix ordered, sending them Ji-hai's plan. "Don't tell anyone where these orders came from." The next day, everything changed. The council watched in shock as their ships moved in new patterns, cutting off the Krell's escape routes. The enemy ships found themselves trapped in exactly the spots Ji-hai had pointed to. "Impossible," shouted a Krell commander before their ships were captured. "How did you predict our movements?" In the council chamber, everyone was confused. Admiral Rix, High Counselor Eric said, "This is amazing. How did you develop such a brilliant strategy?" Rix looked at Ji-hai, who stood quietly in the corner. "I simply saw the pattern," the Admiral said carefully. "Of course," another council member said. "Leave it to our best Admiral to find such a clever solution. Much better than that cute little game the human showed us yesterday." Ji-hai kept her face blank, but her eyes met Admiral Rix. They shared a moment of understanding. The Admiral gave her a slight nod, the first time any council member had shown a human real respect. Back at the Earth Embassy, Du Young was waiting with Hanbai and Tadwan. "They still think it was Admiral Rix's plan," Hanbai said, shaking her head. "Good," Ji-hai replied with a small smile. "Let them think that. But the Admiral knows the truth. And that's exactly what we needed." "Phase 3 complete," Du Young said. "They're starting to see us differently, even if they don't realize it yet. Time to move to Phase 4. Outside the embassy windows, they could see celebration lights filling the sky as the galaxy celebrated its victory. A victory that wouldn't have happened without a human's plan, even if almost nobody knew it. Sung Min Choi sat in his small lab, surrounded by engine parts. His new propulsion system lay on the table before him. Small, simple, and 50 times more efficient than anything the council had ever seen. Not that they knew that yet. "Ready to show them?" Du Young asked from the doorway. Sung Min nodded, picking up his invention. It was time for Phase 4 of their plan. The council's engineering committee met in a large workshop. Alien engineers towered over Sung Min as he placed his device on the display table. "What's this tiny thing?" asked Chief Engineer Lox, picking up the device with 3 of his tentacles. "A new type of engine," Sung Min said quietly. "It uses less fuel." The alien engineers laughed. "How sweet. The little human made a toy engine," one said. Chief Lox patted Sung Min's head. "Very nice craftsmanship for a beginner. Now let's discuss real engineering problems. Our ship engines are failing across the galaxy." As if on cue, emergency alarms blared. A giant screen showed dozens of ships stopping in space, their engines dead. "The new fuel mixture isn't working," someone shouted. "All standard engines are shutting down." Chaos erupted in the workshop. Engineers ran around, checking data, arguing about solutions. Nobody noticed Sung Min quietly running tests with his toy engine in the corner. "The fuel crisis is spreading," Chief Lox announced. Within days, half our ships will be stranded. Sung Min cleared his throat. My engine works with any fuel, he said softly. Even the bad mixture. The alien stopped and stared at him. Chief Lox frowned. Impossible. Show me. Sung Min connected his engine to their fuel supply. It hummed to life instantly, running smoother than any council engine ever had. The workshop went silent. Chief Lox ran test after test, his tentacles shaking. The toy engine outperformed everything they had. This is. Chief Lox couldn't find words. We can make more, Sung Min offered. Enough for all the stranded ships. That night, as Earth's engineers began mass-producing the new engines, Du Young met with his team. They still think it was a lucky accident, Hanbai said. Good, Du Young replied. Let them think that. But they're starting to wonder. Phase 4 is complete. Time for Phase 5. Outside, ships fitted with human engines streaked across the sky, faster and smoother than ever before. The Council's ships now flew on human technology, even if most of them didn't want to admit it yet. 3 months after the engine crisis, Du Young stood before the full Galactic Council. This time, he didn't pretend to be humble or cute. Honorable Council, he said firmly, it's time we talked about what humans have really done. He showed them everything. Hanbai's trade route analysis, Jiehai's battle plans, and Sung Min's engine designs. He showed how alien ships now used human technology, how human strategies had saved the trade hub, and how Earth's ideas had made the galaxy better. Impossible, shouted one council member. These primitive humans couldn't have done all this. But Admiral Rix stood up. They did, she said. The battle plan that saved us, it wasn't mine. It was Jihai's. Chief Engineer Lox raised his tentacles. The engine crisis, the human design wasn't a lucky accident. They knew exactly what they were doing. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some members were angry at being fooled. Others were impressed. A few were still in denial. High Counselor Erix banged his gavel for silence. Why hide your abilities? He asked Du Young. Why pretend to be less than you are? Because you wouldn't have listened otherwise, Du Young answered. You were so sure we were just cute pets that you wouldn't have believed us. We had to show you instead. A new voice spoke up. It was Council Member Vex, who had been watching humans closely for months. He's right, Vex said. We were so busy being amused by them that we missed their brilliance. Perhaps it's time we reconsidered humanity's status. A council chamber grew quiet. Everyone looked at the humans differently now. Not as pets, not as primitive beings, but as equals who had proven themselves. Earth has more to offer, Du Young said. We have other ideas, other innovations, but we want to share them as partners, not as protected pets. High Counselor Erix looked troubled. This will require much discussion. Du Young smiled. Of course. Take all the time you need. We've been patient so far. As he left the chamber, Du Young sent a message to his team. Phase 5 complete. They finally see us. Now for the final push. The Galactic Council split into 2 groups. One group, led by Council Member Vex, wanted to give humans full membership. The other group, led by the ancient Counselor Drom, wanted to keep humans as a protected species. They tricked us, Drom argued in the council chamber. They pretended to be simple while secretly studying our weaknesses. No, Vex replied calmly. They showed us exactly what they could do. We were too proud to see it. While the council argued, Hanbai and Taiwan prepared their final presentation. They had saved their biggest discovery for last. The entire galactic communication network, Hanbai explained to Du Young, is running at only 10% of its potential. Our AI found a way to make it 10 times faster. The next day, they showed their findings to the council. This time, they didn't pretend or hide anything. They showed complex data, advanced calculations, and brilliant solutions. If we combine human eye with alien technology, Taiwan explained, we can rebuild the network. Messages that take days could take minutes. Some council members still looked doubtful, but others were nodding. They had seen too many human successes to ignore this one. Vex stood up. I move to vote on changing humanity's status, he announced. We have seen their true abilities. They are not pets to be protected. They are equals to be respected. Drom shook his head. They are too young. Their civilization is barely mature. Age does not equal wisdom, Admiral Rix spoke up. They saved us from the Krell. Their engines power our ships. Their ideas improve our galaxy. What more proof do we need? The council chamber buzzed with whispers. More members moved to Vex's side. Even some who had laughed at humans just months ago now spoke in their favor. Do Young watched quietly. Everything was going according to plan. Soon, very soon, the final phase would begin. The vote will be tomorrow, High Counselor Erix announced. We will decide humanity's place in the galaxy once and for all. Later, at the Earth Embassy, Du Young's team gathered. Tomorrow, he said, everything changes. Are the final preparations ready? Hanbai nodded. Earth is ready. The Council has no idea what we're about to show them. Phase 6 was complete. The final phase would begin at dawn. The final council meeting began at sunrise. Every seat was filled. Every screen was on. The whole galaxy watched. Du Young stood in the center of the chamber, but this time he wasn't alone. Hanbai, Taiwan, Jihai, and Sungmin stood with him. Behind them, a large covered object waited. Before you vote, Du Young said, we have one last thing to show you. He nodded to Sungmin, who pulled off the cover. Under it was a small black cube, barely bigger than Du Young's hand. This, he said, is humanity's gift to the galaxy. The cube hummed to life. Above it, a hologram appeared, showing a new kind of space drive. It combined human eye with alien technology in ways nobody had ever thought possible. With this, Taiwan explained, ships can travel 3 times faster than before. And it's just the beginning. The council chamber was completely silent. Even Counselor Drom had no arguments left. We never hid our abilities, Du Young said. We showed them to you every day. You just needed to learn to see us as we really are. Not as pets, not as children, but as equals. High Counselor Erix stood up. I call for the vote, he said. His voice was different now, no longer patronizing, but respectful. The vote wasn't even close. Almost every council member voted to make Earth a full member of the Galactic Council. Even Drom voted yes. From this day forward, Erix announced, humanity is recognized as a full partner in galactic civilization. Their protected species status is hereby ended. Do Young stepped forward to sign the new treaty. As he wrote Earth's name on the document, he remembered how the council had once patted his head like a pet. Now they stood and applauded as equals. Later, at the celebration, Admiral Rix approached the human team. You knew, she said. You knew all along they would eventually see the truth. Sometimes, Hanbai replied, the best way to teach is to let others learn for themselves. As the celebration lights filled the sky, Du Young looked at his team. Final phase complete, he said. Now the real work begins. The day the Galactic Council realized humans were more than just cute was the day the galaxy truly began to change. And it was only the beginning of humanity's journey among the stars.